Hi, this is Katie Payne, CEO of Payne Publishing, and today we're going to talk about the Media Quality Score. It's a single score that basically defines what constitutes a good article versus a bad article. The score is weighted. Certain elements of it are weighted more than others based on the degree to which they contribute to your stakeholder audience behaving or believing what you want them to believe or behaving in the way you want them to behave. So in this case, this client, their main positioning is a good growth company, boldness and innovation. So if a story contains any references or conveys that concept, it gets a 2. If it doesn't, because a lot of stories don't, it just gets a 0. If it's accurate, it gets a 1. If it's inaccurate, it gets a -1. If it dispels a myth, in other words, just a cleaning company or just a whatever you're trying to dispel as people think of you, right? So if it perpetuates the myth, it's a -1. But then if it says other things such as toxicity or negative safety concerns or questionable ethics or behavior, then it's a -225. Now we calculate all of these things on basically a +10 to a -10. A +10 being the perfect 10, a -10 being your worst nightmare. And as you can see, it dispels a myth. Positive, we define as leaves the reader more likely to do business with, invest in, or work for this company. Negative is less likely, so a negative is worse than a positive relatively, so it's a -1.5. Desirable messages are important, hard to get, so there are 2. Undesirable messages are undesirable, so that's a -1. Visuals are a +1. Undesirable visuals are also taken into account, so that's a -1. The company has a top tier list of about 20 media reporters. If it's from them, it gets an extra point. This is how we allow for either extra reach or extra influence in a story versus just your average everyday story. And they've got a select group of quotes from ambassadors and spokespeople. Not everything contains a quote, so that would be a 0. So now we go over here to this pre-programmed sheet. And what we've done here is we've actually imported from the media monitoring company the full text, or as much of the text as they'll give you, into this spreadsheet. So the text is here, you can read it and refer to it. The date, subject, the subject is a category that the company classifies everything as. That's their own thing. But the date, the outlet, the author, the headline, and the URL can all be pre-populated from the Excel that your media monitoring company can provide you. And then you start coding. You basically say, okay, let's read the article. Is good growth present or not? And you'll see here there's a little drop-down menu. So when you say it's not present, the score goes to a 0. When you say it is present, the score goes to a 2. I'm going to make this a present 2. Accurate, and same thing here, there's a little drop down menu for this. Accurate, your choices are accurate or inaccurate. Now in the myth category, right, so it either dispels, perpetuates, or maybe it doesn't mention the myth at all, in which case it's a 0, and that's neither, it's a 0. So if it perpetuates the myth, that's a -1. If it mentions one of those really bad things, right, so that's a -225. And as you can see, if I change this to a yes for mentioning those things, that too changes to a 225, right? Bad behavior, desirable messages. Here there's the choice of desirable or undesirable or neither, because a lot of things don't contain a key message. And as you can see, if I make that neither, your score goes to 0. Same thing with tone. Tone can be positive, neutral, balanced, or negative. Right? And so if I change it from a positive to a neutral, that's going to be a 0. If I change it to a negative, it'll automatically go down to -1.5. As you get to the end with all of these different criteria you've set up, you'll see your total score is a -3. And obviously, if you want to take out some of those, you can change it. You shouldn't change it based on what you think the story is. You should change it based on the very specific criteria that you've established. The good thing about this system is that you can give this to an intern, you can give this to a volunteer, you can give this to anybody, and the definitions are there. And so it's not really a judgment score, it's really a score based on the contribution to your mission, essentially. At the end of the month or the quarter, you can just go down to the bottom of this column, the total score. You go up here and you hit average, and it averages all the scores. And so now you know that your average score for the month is a 3.6. You can track that over time. You can also track that over relative to goal conversions or traffic to your website, to all kinds of other things. So that's the value of calculating this single score.